Freemasonry, What the Zohar Says About Hidden Wisdom, Episode 3, Why Wisdom Comes in Layers. In the last episode, 4 men entered Pardes, only one returned whole, Rabbi Akiva, and the lesson we discovered was surprisingly familiar. Wisdom requires preparation, or in language every Freemason immediately recognizes, a man must first be duly and truly prepared. But now we need to go deeper, because Jewish mystical tradition eventually asked another question. If wisdom really does exist in layers, what do those layers look like? And this is where we encounter one of the most important books in the history of Jewish mysticism, the Zohar. The word Zohar means something like radiance or splendor, and traditionally, the Zohar is associated with Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, a student of Rabbi Akiva. So notice the chain we have been following. Yohanan ben Zakkai, then the generations that followed him, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, and eventually, the mystical tradition represented by the Zohar, a tradition transmitted from teacher to student, generation after generation. Now here's where things become very interesting, because the Zohar gives us an extraordinary image for understanding sacred teaching. It tells us, in effect, not to confuse the surface of a story with everything that story contains. Imagine someone standing in front of you, wearing clothing. The first thing you see is the garment. But obviously, the garment isn't the person. There is a body underneath it. And beneath the body is something deeper still, the soul. The Zohar applies essentially this same idea to Torah. The story itself is the garment. It is what we encounter first. Beneath that garment is the structure of the teaching. And beneath that, the living meaning the teaching was constructed to carry. Garment, body, soul. But then the Zohar adds something remarkable. It says there is something beyond even the soul, something deeper still. It calls it the soul of the soul, a level of meaning so profound that even the wisest person may not completely possess it. Now, brethren, think about Freemasonry for a moment. Think about the first time you experienced a degree. What did you see? A ceremony, people moving around a room, words being spoken, objects being presented, working tools, signs, symbols. Maybe at first that's all you could see, the garment. But then you came back, you watched somebody else receive the same degree, and suddenly you noticed something you had completely missed. Then you learned the ritual. You began studying the symbolism. Maybe you sat with an older Mason who pointed something out to you, and suddenly the same ceremony contained something else. The ceremony hadn't changed. You had. Does that sound familiar? Because it's exactly what we discovered with Pardes. Peshat, the surface, Remez, the hint, Dirash, the lesson, Sod, the hidden meaning. Different levels of understanding inside the same thing. And now the Zohar gives us another way of expressing essentially the same principle. Garment, body, soul, and something beyond even that. So perhaps there is a reason Freemasonry doesn't simply give a candidate a book explaining everything. Because maybe the explanation isn't actually the thing we're trying to transmit. The Zohar gives us another wonderful story that makes this much easier to understand. Imagine a man who has spent his entire life living alone in the mountains. The only form of wheat he has ever known is the raw kernel. One day he comes down from the mountain and enters a town. Someone gives him bread. He tastes it and asks, "What is this?" They tell him, "Wheat." Then they give him a pastry worked with oil. Again he asks, "What is this?" Again the answer comes, "Wheat." Finally they give him something extraordinary. A rich confection made with honey, something fit for a king's table. What is this? And once again, wheat. So the man thinks, I already knew wheat. I've been eating wheat my entire life. Therefore, I already understood everything these people just gave me. But according to the Zohar, he understood nothing. Because although every stage began with the same ingredient, he had skipped the process of transformation. And that may be one of the best ways I've ever encountered to explain a Masonic degree. A degree is not simply an obstacle standing between you and some secret somebody refuses to tell you. The degree may actually be part of the process by which understanding is created. Think about the difference. If I simply tell you, here's what this symbol means, I've given you information. But if you encounter that symbol, experience it, think about it, return to it, discuss it with other Masons, and discover something inside it for yourself. Something different has happened. You've acquired understanding. The raw wheat has become bread, and perhaps, eventually, something more. That's why a man can be a master Mason for 30 or 40 years and still discover something new in ritual he has heard hundreds of times. He isn't necessarily discovering new words, he's discovering new layers, because the meaning doesn't exist only in the ritual. Something also happens between the ritual and the person experiencing it. And that brings us to what I think is one of the most important questions in this entire investigation. Did Freemasonry inherit this particular architecture from Jewish mysticism? That's a much harder question, and we should be careful. A similarity is not proof of transmission. Finding two traditions that resemble one another doesn't automatically mean one borrowed from the other, but it does give us something worth investigating, because something very interesting happened outside Judaism as well. Christian thinkers began developing their own systems of layered interpretation, literal meaning, moral meaning, spiritual meaning, and they did it centuries before anything we would recognize as modern Freemasonry existed. So now our investigation gets bigger. Maybe we're not looking at a uniquely Jewish idea, maybe we're looking at something much broader. Maybe human beings repeatedly discovered that the deepest forms of wisdom cannot simply be downloaded from one mind into another. They must be approached, experienced, and gradually understood. And if that's true, then the degrees of Freemasonry may be participating in a very old method of teaching. In the next episode, we're going to meet 3 Christian thinkers who independently wrestled with exactly this problem: Clement of Alexandria, Origen, and Augustine. And one of them did something especially fascinating. He deliberately wrote a book so that a casual reader wouldn't understand everything in it. He hid the deeper teaching in plain sight. Sound familiar? That's where we're going next. Until then, keep asking good questions, keep looking beneath the surface, and never stop building yourself. I'm Gene Whetstone, author of Beneath the Temple. Thank you for watching.